Welcome to Naresh Technologies. I'm Bangar Raju, and this is a continuation series of our ASP.NET videos. And this is the third part of our state management. In the state management, I've just been explaining about the different ways of managing the state. The first option, what I explained, is about hidden fields, and the second thing is query strings. In this video, we'll be learning about view state and the control state. So what is this particular view state and the control state? Okay, well, see, web applications, as we're discussing, they are stateless. To maintain the state of values, ASP.NET provides us different options to maintain the state. The first option is hidden fields. What we done? We had declared some hidden fields and started storing the values into them. Second thing is query strings. So query strings are also used for maintaining the state of values between one page to another page. When you want to transport the values from one page to another page, we have seen how to use the query strings and maintain the state of values. And the next option what we have is the view state and control state. What is this view state and control state? See, view state is a mechanism using which we can maintain the state of values of a particular page. View state is a mechanism using which we can maintain the state of values for a particular page. So how do we maintain the view state values? Means in our page, whatever values you wanted to store in the view state, we are going to declare view state of, and we are just going to give a string key is equals to, and we can just store or assign a value. We can assign some values, and basically you can assign values of type object. You can assign values of type object. Any type of value can be stored into the view state. So like this, we can assign a value and store in the view state and restore the values next time on your page. How to restore the value? If you want to restore the value, object obj is equals to view state of string. Means you're going to store the values with a key and a value. A key and a value. And when you're restoring, when you provide the key, you will be getting back the value. Otherwise, we'll say object value is equals to it. When you provide the key, you're going to get back the value in this place. So this is the mechanism of storing a value, and is the mechanism of restoring or retrieving the value back again into the application. So let us just demonstrate this with an example. Then we'll talk about the internals of the view state. So I wanted to add a web form, page counter .aspx, and here let me add a button which has to show me page hit count. How many times the button is clicked, I want to find out. On click equals to generating an event handler. And now here I just wanted to display myself. Whenever we click on the button, it has to display me the number of times the button has been clicked. And we have just done it already in the first video of your state management. With the hidden fields, we have done this coding. If you recollect, when we use the hidden fields, we already done this example. So first I showed you without using a hidden field, and the second example I've just been shown with a hidden field. Used a hidden field, and we have written the code here explicitly. First, restoring the value from the hidden field, incrementing it, and afterwards displaying it and storing the value back into the hidden field. And exactly in the similar way, I want to perform the current example also. Current example also is to find out the number of times the page has been clicked. So if you want to find out this number of times the page value has been clicked, so how do you find out this thing? Actually, whenever the user clicks on the button, first I want to identify whether a view state value is available or not. First time generally the view state value will not be available. First time when we click, the view state value will not be available. So I'm writing here if view state of, and you notice that it is asking for a string key. It is just asking for a string key. And now I can just give a key for this one. Okay, count or counter is equals to null. Is equals to null means view state doesn't contain any values in this. If it is equals to null, in the sense, if we have such a first request, I'm just going to perform this one here. What I'll declare one variable here, int count, with the initial value of 0, and coming here I'll say count plus equals to 1 and incrementing the count value as 1. Else means if view state values are already existing. If they are already existing, what I want to do is, I want to pick the value from the view state. I want to pick the value from the view state. How to pick? Count is equals to view state of counter. But just notice that the return type of this is an object. The return type of this is an object. So because the return type is an object, we cannot directly assign a value. So let us explicitly perform a conversion into integer. So I am just converting into integer and this integer, and finally this is going to restore the old value. For this old value, I am just going to explicitly say plus 1. When I say plus 1, automatically this value will come into the count. Old value plus 1. And you will be worried about, you will be confused. Where did you store the view state value? I did not store still. I did not store any view state value. After completing this, in the last I am going to write this. What? View state of counter is equals to count. View state of counter is equals to count, and response dot write page hit count plus count. To understand the logic, let us place a breakpoint here. Run the code. Yeah, I got the button here. When I click on this page hit count, now it will go to the breakpoint, and now you just say int count. First time we clicked int count is equals to 0, count is initialized. And now it is going to verify. What it verifies? Do you have any view state value or not? Do you have any view state value or not? So now we don't have any view state values at all. Any view state values there. So this is true now. It is null. When it is null, it comes to inside and the count value becomes 1 now. It is 0 becomes 1. And after that, the 1 is stored in the view state. The 1 is stored in the view state. And finally, we are going to display that information on the browser. Okay. So now, do we have a view state value? Yes, we have. So we have view state value. Why? Because when we click on the first time, we have stored this 1 in the view state now. So now when you click on the page hit count for the second time, you see now count is again 0. And when you come here, it will check now. View state of counter is equals to null. No, it is not null. It is not null. It has a value. So control jumps to else part here. Control jumps to else part. And in the else part, it picks the old value 1, adds 1 to it, and now the count is going to be 2. And the count value is 2 right now. You can just notice it, the count value 2. And that 2 is again stored back into the view state and displayed for us. So like this, whenever I try to click on the button, it will just increment that value. Why? The view state value is going to be present over there, and you can just maintain the state of the values. So this is how you can maintain the state of your particular values with the help of the view state. So this process is very much similar to storing a value in the hidden field, what we saw in our first video of state management. The second video of the state management. In the second video of the state management, if you remember, I was explaining you how to maintain the view state values in this case. So what is that? We have taken a hidden field, restoring the value from the hidden field, incrementing it, and again storing back in the hidden field. So this is also same mechanism. First we are checking whether we have a view state, incrementing it, and afterwards restoring the value back into the view state. So both are going to be a very similar approaches for storing the values. Okay, fine. Now let me also tell you then what is the difference between hidden fields and view state. Actually, view state will not store these particular values on the server. View state will not store the values on the server. We are storing a value on the view state, and we may assume like the value is stored on the server. No, view state values are not stored on the server. Then where these view state values are stored? View state values are stored on the browser only. So what happens? What happens is, right now first time I open, I don't have any view state value. When you click on this and you see the view source and see the view source here, you'll be just finding gap one hidden field here. Input type is equals to name is equals to underscore view state, id is equals to view state, value is equals to, it's going to contain some value in it. it is going to contain some value in it. What is this particular value? That's basically enough for business right now. We'll just go through, but it contains some value in it. It contains some value. Now, when I click on the page hit count, what is going to happen? It is going to increment, it is going to store a value into the view state. It is going to store a value into the view state. As we discussed already, you have debugged the code. I am clicking for the first time, a value is stored in the view state. Now come here to the view source and you can just see here. Now also we have some value in this. Under this only, it was storing our view state value. Under this only it was storing our view state value. Initially also this view state is there. There is something present in the view state, we don't know. By default every page will contain this view state, this hidden field here with the name as view state by default. But when I click on this particular button, the value is changing, and not only the value is changing, have a look at the view state. The view state value here also it changes. Here we have something 8/1GTR, something is present here. And again you click on this, you will not have the same value. You go to view states and you can see a different value that is present here. NSHW9Z. So you see a different value. Again click on this view state. Again you will be seeing a different value. So view state values, what I am trying to tell you is view state values are not stored on the server. Where they are stored? They are stored directly on your browser only. They are stored directly on the browser only. What happens? What happens is whenever the page is being rendered, the view state values are going to be written on the rendered output. In the rendered output only it will write you the view state values into a hidden field. So we'll have a doubt here. This is exactly same as the hidden field mechanism we used in our earlier case. It is exactly same as the hidden fields mechanism what we used in earlier case. Exactly. But the difference is here the values are stored. Here the hidden field values are stored. Here the hidden field values are stored for us directly. But when you come to view state, the hidden field values are not stored directly. They are stored in encrypted format, base 64 string encrypted. Means the value what has to be stored in the view state will be first converted into the base 64 string encrypted format, and that encrypted string will be sent to the browser, which is stored in the hidden field. And next time whenever it is trying to restore the value, it will restore that base 64 string and again converts back into the actual value to consume it. And this conversions will happen if at all we use the view state. But a hidden field means that doesn't do. We need to do explicitly. We need to do encryption, we need to do decryption. All the encryption, decryption should be explicitly performed by the developers here. If at all we go for using the view state, all these are implicitly performed without an explicit encryption and decryption. That is the difference what we just have between this. Other than that, a view state and a hidden field are very, very similar to each other. They are very, very similar to each other. Using hidden fields also we maintain this, as well as by using the view state also we can just perform the things. There we need to explicitly create a hidden field and we need to store the data explicitly into hidden field, and we need to restore the value explicitly from the hidden field. And if you want encryption, decryption, for that also we need to write the logic. But here you don't require any hidden field. Straight away use a view state, that only will create a hidden field and store for you. And the hidden field name will be what? Underscore view state. Underscore view state. Okay. So what are the advantages we'll be having with the view state? The advantage what you have with the view state is, the first advantage with view state is values are not stored on server. Values are not stored on server. Second one, values are not stored on the server, they are stored on the browser. They are stored in the browser. Okay. Values are stored in an encrypted format. They are stored in encrypted format. Okay. So these are the basic advantages what you will be having when you just work with the view state. Values are not stored on the server, they are stored directly on the browser. And the second thing is values are stored in an encrypted format. They are not directly stored on the browser. In an encrypted format, we can just see the values. And at the same time, we have some disadvantages with them also. And at the same time, we can also find some disadvantages here. What are the disadvantages? Disadvantages are when we have huge volumes of data stored in view state. All this data will be submitted to the server for every post back and again sent back to the browser. All this data will be submitted to the server and again sent back to the browser when the response comes. So this is a major drawback. And the second important concern here is, even if view state values are encrypted, it is still possible to crack the values by decrypting. You can just perform a decrypting and you can just go for cracking those values. So that is still possible for us in case of your view state. Okay. So that is the main concerns what we'll be having on the view state. And all this data will be posted back to server browser, and it is even still possible for decrypting those values which are present on the view state. So when I should use a view state, when I should not use a view state. Okay. Use view state when we want to store any smaller volumes of data. Use view state when we wanted to store any smaller volumes of data. Next, do not use view state. When your data volume is more, and also don't store any sensitive data like passwords, because they can be decrypted. So whenever you have any smaller volumes of data, only better to go for using view state. Don't use this view state whenever you're just going to have any smaller volumes of data. Okay, fine. And very important thing here to remember is all our ASP.NET server controls, by default maintains view state values, and we can call it as control state. So by default all our server controls will maintain the view state values. Here we are explicitly storing the view state values. Apart from this, if at all you have any server controls will by default maintain this view state values here. Okay, just to have a look. Here let us add 2 text boxes. I'm adding 2 text boxes here. Run the web form. If you see, when I enter any values into the text box and click on this, basically if you go to the view source, all the appropriate values will be stored inside the inside of this particular view state. It is going to store all those particular values of the text boxes also into the view state. It will store you those values also in the view state here. So view state will be storing you all this information. Basically it is not only going to store you just the information about your explicit view state values, but your control values also will be stored into the view state. So by default, this view state is enabled for all our ASP.NET server controls. Explicitly they are enabled. We can disable that. That is a different story. If at all you want to disable the view state values of a control, we have an option called enable view state equals to false. When we say enable view state is equals to false, these controls will not maintain the view state values. these controls will not maintain the view state values. If you want to disable the view state for any control, we can just disable it by using enable view state. What is the advantage? If you disable the view state by saying enable view state is equals to false, performance will be more. Why? Because all this controls data will not be posted to server and browser, the round trip of the data will not be there. So that's why the performance will be a bit more when compared with enabling this view state. So generally when we want the pages to be lightweight, so this is one of the technique what we can just use. We can say enable view state false for the appropriate control. So for this control only the view state is disabled, but our explicit view state doesn't have any impact on it. Our explicit view state doesn't have any impact on it. Our view state values are explicitly maintained here. See, our view state values doesn't have an impact with it, but the controls view state value will not be stored over there, that's all. Okay, so the controls view state value will not be stored in the view state here. If you go to view, the controls view state value will not be stored into this, but explicit view state will be present for the values what I stored. Explicit view state values will present. If you don't want a view state for a page at all, if at all you don't want a view state for a page at all, if you don't want, what you do is go to the page directive and here you write what enable view state is equals to false. So you are disabling the view state for the complete page. You are disabling the view state for the complete page. For the complete page the view state is disabled. Run again and you see our explicit view state values also will not be maintained. Click on the button and when you click, see, it is not storing the value. It is not maintaining the state of the value. I am getting 1 only. Why I am getting 1? Is the view state going to be present here? Will be present. View state will be present. But still, this view state doesn't contain our count value. Our counter value will not be present. By default, your page maintains that view states and stores some internal values. That's completely irrelevant to us. But still, our view state value is not at all going to be stored into this. So that's why every time I am getting 1 only in this context. So if you say enable view state is equals to false, the whole page will not maintain the view state. No, I don't want a view state to be maintained for a particular control. For a particular control, you can say enable view state is equals to false. So controls will not maintain, because by default, every control maintains the state of the values and we call that as a control state. So that's what basically a view state and control state are. So like this also we can maintain the state of the values in our applications. So this is the third option what we have, hidden field, query strings, and the third one what we have is the view state and the control state here. Thank you for watching the video. For more videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel Naresh IT.